Inequalities is something that you've done in 6th grade, maybe in 7th grade, and what we're going to do with it today in this lesson is just kind of review the basics, and then later on in this chapter we're going to relate it to equations. We're going to solve these crazy things called compound inequalities and absolute value inequalities. But for right now, we're just going to review the basics. An inequality is a mathematical sentence that compares expressions. And there are 4 symbols that we use. There's the greater than sign. There's the less than sign. There's greater than or equal, or less than or equal. Those shouldn't be brand new to you. And there's a chart down here that goes over like the words that you might see in a sentence that would represent each of the symbols. So let's just do a little practice translating sentences into inequalities. So what you do is you just go left to right, you read the sentence, and as you see something that you can turn into a symbol, you write it. So a number W is just going to be W minus 3.5 is less than or equal to, so that's going to be the less than or equal to sign, -2. So pretty straightforward. A little trick happens in letter B because you have to read it very carefully. It says 3 is less than a number n plus 5. What they're doing is they're grouping n plus 5 together. So the way that you would write that is 3 is less than n plus 5. Okay, maybe that wasn't so complicated for you. Let's look at letter C. 0 is greater than or equal to twice a number x plus 1. So we just write that as we read it. 0 is greater than or equal to twice a number x plus 1. Okay, let's move on. Now this is something that we talked about when we did equations. A solution of an inequality is a value that makes the inequality true. An inequality, though, can have more than one solution. And the set of all solutions of an inequality is called the solution set. So let's just look at values and see if they're in the solution set. So it tells us -4 is the value, and they want us to determine if that's in the solution of the inequality. So all you do is kind of like what we did with equations. You check, you plug in -4, and you see if you get a true statement. So is -4 plus 8 less than -3? Well, -4 plus 8 is 4. 4 is not less than -3, so that is not a solution. Okay, let's check out the other one. -4.5 times 4, -4, is greater than -21. Well, I already know a negative times a negative is a positive, and any positive is bigger than any negative, so I know that it's going to be yes, but if you want, we can figure out the number. It's going to be 18, and 18 is greater than -21, so that's yes, a solution. This is also something that you did when you talked about inequalities. You talked about the graph of an inequality. And the graph of an inequality shows the solution set on a number line. An open circle is used when the number is not a solution, and a closed circle is used when the number is a solution. And then you decide, do you want to arrow to the left or to the right, depending on which way the solutions are. So you don't have to get super crazy with the number line by like writing all these numbers. You just have to show the number and you have to show which way it's going. So we have -3 as our main number, and it says y is less than or equal to -3, so I'm going to use a closed circle because I'm allowed to be equal to the number, and then less than is all the numbers that are less than -3, so that's to the left. And that's it. It gets a little trickier when the variable is on the right, so my suggestion is read it from the variable. So you have to read it backwards. So this actually says x is greater than 2. 2 is less than x is greater than 2. So let's put 2 in the middle. It's going to be an open circle since we're not allowed to be equal to 2, and since x is greater than 2, I'm going to go to the right. One thing you can do is you can pick a number like, say, 3. Does 3 make sense? Is 2 less than 3? And then obviously it is. So you can take a number, you can plug it into the inequality if you want to. And the last one, x is greater than 0, so that's not tricky. Put 0 in the middle, and x is greater. It's an open circle, and it's going to go to the right. All right, last thing is we have to write some inequalities. So the graph shows the height restriction, h in inches, for 2 rides at an amusement park. Write an inequality that represents the height restriction of each ride. So for ride A, if you notice, it's at 48, and we're allowed to be equal to 48, so it's going to be one of the equal to symbols, and it's greater. So this would be an example of where you have to be like over 48 inches. So let's say h is greater than or equal to 48. And then for the other one, we're not allowed to be equal to 52, so it's going to be not one of the equal signs, and then we're going to the left. So this would be like a ride for little kids. So it's h is less than 52. If you have any questions, write them down and ask me when you come to class.